ladies and gentlemen. So today we are going to talk about a very controversial issue or many controversial issues. During the past 5 years specifically, the words left wing, right wing and centrist have been thrown at us randomly. So today we'll try to understand what these words mean in a way that you will remember them. India has this unique ability of Indianizing everything and making everything and modifying everything according to the Indian ethos. We did not even spare religions. For example, a few centuries ago, many people from the backward classes converted to Christianity because Christianity was a religion which was free of any discrimination, and we all know about the caste system in Hinduism. So many people from the lower classes and the depraved classes converted to Christianity. That's absolutely fine. But in 2020, the further generations of these people who had converted, they approached the government and asked for reservations for Christian Dalits. I mean, seriously? So Christianity, which did not have a caste system, came to India, got Indianized and developed a caste system. That's how we Indianize everything. So, what is this left, right and center all about anyway? Let me explain it to you because I am a Brahmin, because I am a teacher. So whether you are left, right or center, remember we are taking a global perspective. We come down to Indian perspective and the funny things that happen in India in the name of ideologies. So whether you are left, right or center depends fundamentally on answers to two questions. Question number 1, is religion important? And the left wing is like, get the hell out of here. God does not exist. There is no such thing as religion. And the rightist is like, how dare you even ask that question? It is the most important aspect of a human's life. Get out of here. And the centrist is like, it's personal. The second question, which economic system is the best for maximizing human welfare? The right wing is like, governments are corrupt. People should own everything. The left wing is like, people are corrupt. The governments should own everything. And socialism is like, get the hell out of here. Both are corrupt, so they should own everything partially. See, in 2 minutes I have done what a newspaper called The Hindu could not do in 142 years. Explain basic concepts using simple language. And which ideology has succeeded in uniting people the most? None. Which ideology has created human welfare for everybody? None. You know why? Because the word assumption starts with the word as. And when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. Capitalism assumes that the businessmen are honest. They are not. Communism assumes that the governments are honest. They are not. Socialism assumes that the people are honest. We all know how honest. Here's a fun fact for you. Can you tell me what are the 3 leading causes of death in the 20th century? No? Number 1, God, right wing. Number 2, Karl Marx, left wing. Number 3, diseases. That's socialism, because they don't have enough money to take care of the diseases. And what are we? I'm sure you must have put a thought to it. What are we? None of the above. We are a curious mix of all the 3. In fact, we are a very curious mix of 2 extremes. When it comes to earning money and getting our salaries, we are completely capitalist. Completely. We want to be rewarded according to our own level of inefficiency. That's capitalism. But when it comes to spending, we are totally communist, because we have so much problems in paying for an LPG cylinder without using the subsidy. I hope you know subsidies is a concept which is completely alien to capitalism. We are capitalists as long as our businesses are running well and we are minting money. And the moment the businesses start to lose money, everybody finds a fault with capitalism, with the government policy. Your business did not work because you were incompetent. It has got nothing to do with the government. So basically, we believe whatever we want to believe at that particular point of time. I have coined a new word for it. It's called convenientism. Believing what is convenient at that point of time. We are neither capitalists, nor communists, nor socialists. No. We are convenientists. And of course, we have each of them, the leftists and the rightists, they have their own role models. In India, for example, the role models of the right wing are, let us say, Golwarkar Guruji, maybe Hedgewarji, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, great people, all of them. And the left wing, you know who their role models are? Chairman Mao, Mao Zedong of China, that's 26 million dead. Joseph Stalin, that's another 18 million. Hitler killed 6 million and he's the bad guy. So in India, we have our own brand of everything. For example, this will sound very weird. If you look at the political spectrum of India, you must be familiar with the word Bhakt. Yeah, right. If you analyze the political history of India, everything is fragmented into 4 types of Bhakts. There are 4 types of Bhakts in India. You want to know who they are? You have heard of only one? Yeah, I know. You have the Ram Bhakts, you have the Marx Bhakts, you have the Bhim Bhakts, and you have the Scam Bhakts. No prizes for guessing which political party represents which. These are the 4 types of Bhakts we have in India. In India, Marx Bhakts actually fight elections. And they get elected through a democratic process. That's a first in the world. Everywhere else, communists have come to power through revolutions. A total waste of time if you ask me. For example, the socialist revolution of France, the Bourbon dynasty was kicked out in they came back again in 1828. The Russian Revolution. They had a new system in 1917 and they realized this system is not working in 1991. That's 44 years, 74 years, and millions of lives. But in India, they fight elections. And every Bhakt has been in alliance with every other Bhakt. There is a reason I am telling you this. Every Bhakt has been in alliance with every other type of Bhakt. For example, in 1989, okay, the Bhim Bhakts, the Ram Bhakts, and the Marx Bhakts came together to keep the scam Bhakts out of power. In 1996, the scam Bhakts, the Bhim Bhakts, and the Marx Bhakts came together to ensure that the Ram Bhakts don't come to power. From 2004 to 2014, the Ram Bhakts were on one side and all the other Bhakts were lined together. And that situation is continuing even today. Today, the government that we have majorly consists of the Ram Bhakts and childhood friends fight on WhatsApp groups defending their ideologies. That's funny. I'm sure you must also be one of them. I'm sure you must have also quit your WhatsApp group, or you must have fought with your friend on WhatsApp group, your childhood friend. I'm sure of that. And we fight defending their ideologies. We think they have ideologies. That's wonderful. And the leftists and the rightists have their own brand of everything. Even historians are classified into left-wing historians and right-wing historians. Even terrorism, you have left-wing extremism and you have right-wing extremism. And India is a unique nation. It has been the victim of both these types of terrorism. And the best part about communism is, though it does not believe in religion, it has its own concept of gods. The cult of Stalin, the cult of Mao, if these are not gods, if this is not worshipping a god, what is it? There are temples in China where Chairman Mao is worshipped. You don't believe me? You go to YouTube and just type worshipping Mao. You will find that Chairman Mao is being worshipped by offering flowers, incense sticks, and they don't believe in God. In Russia, USSR then, in 1991, after the communist government failed and communism as a system failed, you know how many statues of Stalin the Russians had to break down? 35,000. 35,000. Here in India, people are trying to build a temple of Ram and you have to go to the Supreme Court. 35,000. In 1991, people realized that they were worshipping a false god. So as always, there is one more example, of course. Take North Korea, for instance. On 8 July 1997, if my memory is serving me correctly, the North Korean government passed a decree. And the decree was, we will start a new calendar from the year 1912. You know why? Because that was the year of birth of Kim Il-sung, the current dictator's grandfather. So a communist nation like North Korea starts its calendar on the day a leader died. How anti-God that is, nahin? Whenever there is a major disease, some tests are devised. And the objective of the tests is to test the patient whether he is positive or not. And if a patient is positive, that means he suffers from the disease. Now, since communism is also a disease which is inflicting mankind, I thought maybe somebody should design a test just to determine whether a person is a communist or not. But once that idea came to my mind, I couldn't shirk the responsibility, could I? So I took upon it myself to design a test. So, ladies and gentlemen, presenting for the first time in the world the COMI positive test. And these are the questions. Question 1. Do you openly decry the big bad corporate world and yet work slavishly there to earn your income? Question 2. Do you have this urge to answer questions not directed at you? Question 3. In a debate, are you the first person to use words like Bhakt and Islamophobia? Question 4. Do you think that everybody owes you something? Question 5. Have you done your India-centric research from a university in Europe or the United States? Yeah? If the answer to any of these questions is yes, you suffer from a condition called COMI positive. How bad is the condition, you ask? The more the number of yeses, the worse your condition is. So, my friends, be right, take care, and I finished another round. See you soon. Thank you.